What's up, y'all? Welcome to my channel. DJ, the token black guy. Y'all know who it is. We used 1,000 times. But yeah, so we had the Fantastic Four First Steps trailer. I did my reaction. We've talked about it on the Hangout with my boy Gascar. Go over his channel. Check it out every Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. And I think when I first watched the trailer, I was kind of like, but the more I've watched the trailer, the more it's grown on me. And I'm actually really excited for it. I love the aesthetic of the trailer. A lot of people are talking about the CGI of the thing. I actually like it. Little critiques I could do here and there, but overall, it looks promising. The movie looks very promising. But we haven't done this in a while on this channel, but we're going to go over the new Rockstar with our boy Eric Voss, and we're going to get a breakdown and Easter egg. Again, I haven't done one of these in a long time, so let's find out all the stuff that we missed, all the Easter eggs, all the things that, you know, that the details that I may not know, that you may not know. So let's find out together. Here we go. Mr. Eric Voss, what do you got for me?
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I am Eric Voss, and this is a frame-by-frame breakdown of
Make
every
sure you
detail
go
missed
over
in
to
the
that
official
channel
trailer
and
for Marvel
subscribe to
Studios'
New
Fantastic
Rockstars.
Four First Steps. From all the design choices in this alternate universe 1960s New York to the incredible attention to detail in Galactus, The Thing, Herbie, and just a lot of
I don't know much about
crazy,
Herbie.
creepy clues that I found in this trailer. I just gotta
Creepy
share it
clues?
all with you as we look ahead to this launch in July. And I am wearing our Fantastic Four inspired fire.
Yeah, you already got merch
shirt,
already?
part of a new amazing collection of shirts and other products available exclusively at our merch store, nerdriot.shop. The best way to support us here at New Rockstars. Okay, let's dive into this trailer.
Let's dive in. I love the aspect ratio.
Welcome to the Baxter Building.
We make a point to do family dinner every week. Sunday at 7 on the dot, no matter what. We're all here.
You can catch us Sunday at 7 on
The
Robert
trailer
Storm's
opens with elevator
Going Live.
doors opening up to the penthouse level of the Baxter Building, headquarters of the Fantastic Four. In the background of the skyline,
Empire.
we see this alternate universe Manhattan, including the Chrysler Building and
Chrysler.
a series of new retro futurist towers and
Interesting.
spires. Designs that director Matt Shackman said were inspired by artists like Sid Mead. This movie is set in an alternate universe separate from the primary 616 Marvel
I wonder how
Cinematic
they're gonna tie it
Universe,
together.
in which the Fantastic Four are already celebrity astronauts and superheroes in New York in the year 1963. And we get that year in particular from a specific issue of Life magazine that appeared in the first official character artwork released 1 year ago, which was a real issue of Life with President Lyndon B. Johnson on the cover from
Interesting.
December 1963. Marvel Studios is setting this film in an alternate universe for a few reasons. One, to give themselves a clean slate of a Marvel history unaffected by any of the 20th century events. They gave us
yeah,
the
because I would think
616
Captain America
Infinity
ought to be
Saga.
around by
Two,
now.
in order to reimagine a true Marvel universe that more accurately reflects the Silver Age Marvel heyday from the 1960s, in which Stan Lee and Jack Kirby creations like the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man, X-Men, Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, and Black
I mean,
Panther
this is gonna be a reset. Let it be a
revolutionized
reset.
not only Marvel's brand, but comic books as a medium and an industry. And three, to establish a lived-in Marvel Elseworld as we tread forth into this multiverse saga and to meet other multiversal heroes
Okay.
ahead of the crossover events like Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. Really, they're just trying to build up a world that they can destroy without affecting the rest of
That
their
makes
canonical
sense. Makes
history.
perfect
Yes,
sense.
as bright and beautiful as this version of Earth is, there is a good chance it is doomed for an apocalyptic event. And
I will say it's very bright. It's very vivid. I actually
this
enjoy
Fantastic
that.
Four might have to leave it behind through a rift in the multiverse.
That's
This
my
shot
thing.
of the elevator doors opening might recall shots of elevator doors opening to the penthouse suite of Avengers Tower, which Marvel Studios Thunderbolts will have in May of this year. And I think opening the trailer with this angle is meant to kind of pose the question, what if instead of Tony Stark's Avengers Tower, the Marvel home
Baxter
base
Building?
was Reed Richards' Baxter Building? Reed Richards, Pedro Pascal, and Sue Storm, Vanessa Kirby give a press tour of their penthouse, part of a somewhat awkward publicity stunt. As we'll see in this trailer, the cost of fame is a core theme of the Fantastic Four, as they were one of the first Marvel heroes to present themselves to the public unmasked. Reed Richards chose to do this in support of his best friend, Ben Grimm, who,
Because he could've had-
unlike
yeah.
the other three, was unable to hide his superpowered nature. After Ben's childhood of anti-Semitic bullying on Yancey Street, Reed had all four of them go public so that Ben now would not feel so isolated, which is a major sacrifice because it means constant media appearances
Makes sense, yeah. I
inviting the
mean,
press and public into their private
the
lives
risk you take when you
and
do
putting
that.
themselves and their home in the crosshairs. The title First Steps has a number of possible meanings. Matt
First
Shackman
steps to the
told
new
our colleague Brandon
universe?
Davis at San Diego Comic-Con last summer that it was inspired by the NASA Apollo missions, but also had some other mystery reason he didn't want to say yet.
Tell me what that title kind of we should take away from that.
Well, I mean, there's definitely a few meanings to it that I can't really talk about, but there's also the general meaning, which is like space race, 60s, Neil Armstrong.
I heard
you know?
first step
That
to
other reason
getting back on
I
track.
believe is the mysterious "it gets personal" verbiage in the official synopsis that Marvel Studios has released for this film. And maybe it's just because my 14-month-old son is reaching this stage, but I think there's a good chance it refers to the first steps of a baby child. Like, we don't see him in this trailer, but Reed and Sue's son in the comics is
Oh.
Franklin Richards, and he is rumored to appear in this film, possibly also their daughter Valeria Richards. And both kids are
Interesting.
pretty important to the future of Marvel lore. Franklin Richards is an Omega level mutant
Yes, yes, he
and
is.
a reality warper. Some theories have speculated that baby Franklin could be why Galactus is targeting Earth. Actually, there could be an important clue here, because look at Vanessa Kirby's walking behind Reed right as he says Sunday at 7.
Every week, Sunday at 7 on the dot.
Oh,
no
that's a
matter
bump.
what.
Yeah,
That's
there
maybe
is
a
kind
little
of an
bump.
unforced, awkward wobble as she leans her shoulders back, as if she really might be carrying some extra weight that we just don't see in the shot. Could this trailer shot have been manipulated with VFX to hide a baby bump? In fact,
that's
inviting the
interesting.
press into their home, as awkward as it is, could be
That's
Reed's way of reassuring the public
interesting.
that despite being celebrity superheroes
They're
who
going
face
back to the
constant danger,
disguise
they
and
are
stuff
still
in
capable
trailers.
of maintaining a stable home environment for a baby.
We make a point to do family dinner every week.
I would have never
Sunday
caught
at
that.
7 on the dot, no matter what. We're all here.
Yeah, he says we're all here.
We're all
Even
here.
A little bun in the oven.
Yep,
Perhaps.
maybe,
Also, some
maybe.
had pointed to this shot later in the trailer that
Another
looks
baby
like
bump?
Sue's baggy shirt could be covering a bump. But yeah, when it comes to this kind of thing, I'd rather my analysis just be based on like an awkward stepping
Yeah,
by
don't
the
call-
actor
don't call a
than,
woman-
like a Daily Mirror front page. Like, oi, is that baby?
Don't be calling a girl
Matt
fat or
Shackman,
pregnant.
who directed WandaVision for Marvel Studios and earned praise for his capturing of authentic 1960s aesthetics and tones, and we should note a pregnancy subplot. He has said that this movie will not be an origin story for the Fantastic Four.
Yeah,
that the
you don't
story
need
of
it.
the four test pilots going up into space and then getting blasted by cosmic rays and then returning to Earth with the powers of elasticity, invisibility,
we
and
know
shield
this.
projection, fire and flight, and rocky invulnerability and strength. All of that is pretty well known from the comics and
Yeah,
animation
yeah,
and the
people
films
know.
from the Fox era, 2005.
You could do a
Fantastic Four,
quick
and
little
2007
in dialogue
Rise of the Silver
about-
Surfer, both directed by Tim Story, and 2015's reboot directed by Josh Trank, all three of which we have broken down on this channel. Matt Shackman said to Entertainment Weekly after revealing the initial concept previs footage at San Diego Comic-Con.
One of the things we decided early on was not to do an origin story. Then you're making up your new story starting basically at the end of the first act. And we thought, well, let's just start this thing off on a completely new foot.
I
And
appreciate
so
that.
we are beginning after that.
And before we move on, the Marvel Studios title card on blue renders the letters of MARVL on these like fold out diagonal panels, which
classic.
is inspired by Hollywood's
Yeah.
Cinerama Dome, which actually opened in that same year of 1963. Now, this might only matter to LA area cinephiles, but the Cinerama Dome had been in the past part of ArcLight Cinemas and sadly never reopened after the pandemic shutdown. But there have been some reports of a possible reopening in mid 2025. And God, I hope Disney finds a way to make this happen for the Fantastic Four First Steps premiere this summer. All right, moving on.
Herbie, how's that sauce coming? Yeah, I'll be the judge of that.
Yeah, I wish his eyebrows would have moved. That's my only little critique about the
Okay.
animation. And a little more facial expressions.
Okay,
You know
is
he's a
this
rock.
guy good or what? I want to add a couple cloves of garlic. Not
His
because it's
voice is
delicious,
just
I
not
just
as
wanna add a little
raspy
bit
as I
of
think it should be.
Okay.
The trailer now changes its aspect ratio from 4:3, 16mm film style used in the type of documentaries in that era to a modern cinematic widescreen. But I love that you can still see the little burned off edges into the film celluloid to kind of give this newsreel footage a bit of texture. And we angle up on the Baxter building, which is curved and has a large 4 on the edifice and a large gap in the middle. Later aerial shots of this trailer show that the Baxter building is right up against the East River and connects to a tarmac that bridges to a rocket launch pad in the river. Four.
For
A
the ship.
Fantastic Four fan that was released at San Diego Comic-Con included an official art rendering of the Manhattan of this
Oh,
film. And
okay.
from that, we know that this launch pad is called the Excelsior launch pad. And
Excelsior.
is, of course, the New York State motto, meaning ever upward, and Stan Lee's famous catchphrase. Michael Giacchino composed the music for this movie, and I think it might be up there with one of the all-time best movie scores for a superhero
Fantastic
film.
Four.
And I think they actually reached out to him because he scored Pixar's Incredibles,
Oh,
and that movie's
really?
director Brad Bird totally imagined as like a Pixar version of the Fantastic Four with a family with similar power sets. But for this score, Giacchino clearly structured the music around the number 4, the opening choir vocals chanting 4 repeating notes, sounding like bubbles popping, like ba boom ba ba boom boom ba ba.
Boom, boom,
Which
boom.
then builds into this 4-note theme that incorporates all the sections. Ba, ba,
I've been
ba,
watching
ba,
All
ba,
Mankind, so all the
ba,
space stuff,
ba,
I'm just like
ba,
looking at in the
ba,
background.
ba.
Ben wasn't a rock.
The best pilot in the world right here.
Yeah. Best looking, he means.
And then it all builds to this crazy choir cacophony of Fantastic Four.
I like that. I like that. I actually like the theme.
It's just incredible, and I can't wait to hear it in like a Dolby Cinema. And here we get our first official look at Herbie, aka humanoid experimental robot B-type integrated electronics. Herbie was first introduced in the Fantastic Four 1978 animated series as a replacement comic relief character, since the Human Torch could not appear in that show, since Johnny Storm was optioned at the time to appear separately in a solo film. There was an untrue urban myth that claimed that the Human Torch was left out due to some fears that kids would try to set themselves on fire. But
Are you
that
serious?
was not the reason why he
That's
wasn't in the show.
crazy.
The following year, Herbie was given a role in the comics and given an origin as a creation by Reed Richards and Master Zar of the Xandarians, who had intended this robot to help with the search for Galactus. Herbie looks like an incredible practical effect
It
here,
looks like
with
the-
rotating
like the-
analog disc
the maid
eyepieces
from,
and
the
two
Jetsons.
rising and lowering central mouth knobs that give this robot a facial appearance that can handle a smile or a frown or like a Charlie Brown zigzag, and then these eyes that can literally eye roll, as Herbie appears to do with Ben when Ben throws more garlic in the sauce. Herbie speaks with some robot chirps that are similar to droids like Chopper from Star Wars that you can kind of sense what they might be saying
Yeah.
underneath the modulation. In fact, I think they say pretty good when Ben asks how the sauce is coming.
Herbie, how's that sauce coming? Yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
to that.
Now, some had thought that Herbie might be voiced by Natasha Lyonne, but now I'm thinking she's going to be playing some other character.
Oh,
okay,
really?
but let's talk about
Okay.
Ben Grimm.
I know she was in the
Thing.
movie.
He's played in this movie by Evan Moss-Bachrach. Inevitably, when characters like this show up in trailers, sections of the internet default to shitting on it while having no reason
Yeah.
to do so other
Yeah,
than their
we-
own dissatisfaction
we're
with everything.
seeing that right
But
now.
Let's break this down by A, character design, B, texturing, C, animation, D, sound mixing,
Get 'em
and
there,
E,
'cause I
performance.
actually
From
like
a
this.
character design standpoint, Ben is given a thick brow layer.
I
that
wish the
shadows his
eyebrow would
tiny
move a little bit
eyes,
more.
similar to the Alex Ross rendition of the thing. A brow so thick that it even changes the silhouette of his overall head, as when we see Ben later in this trailer. And that differentiates this look from the 2005 and 2007 practical suit worn by Michael Chiklis, which really bulged out Chiklis's jaw and, in my opinion, made him look kind of less intelligent, like a,
Yeah, like a
Neanderthal.
dude.
It also differentiates him from the fully CGI 2015
Eh.
redesign, which was, I think, an improvement that accentuated the cheekbones of the character, but also forced Ben Grimm to be naked for a lot of it. Thank you to. So this Ben Grimm and all of the Fantastic Four in this movie wear blue jumpsuits with white collars and white boots, inspired by
By
the
the old school,
1980s
yeah.
John Byrne
Yeah.
era of the Fantastic Four, but with the baby blue tones from the Lee and Kirby era. It's kind of the best of both worlds.
I don't
And think
mind
that
the
for some
suits.
viewers, any CG rendered character design in which the eyes are just too small in proportion to the rest of the face, or just like too humanoid, might just remind you of
Oh,
Ugly
God,
Sonic,
that-
and you can't
no.
do anything about it. But I'm here to tell you that not every small-eyed CGI character qualifies as Uncanny Valley. Like Sonic was a cartoon hedgehog. Ben Grimm is a
The
humanoid
human,
bug
yeah.
creature.
That makes
His
more
eyes are
sense.
supposed to be small and squinty. And I really just think there's a lot of folks out there on social media who have been conditioned to hate stuff without really knowing much about design.
Exactly.
And their tastes are just
Preach it,
informed
preach
not
it,
by
my brother,
curiosity
preach it.
or by any background
I'm tired of people just automatically hating stuff just to hate stuff. It's just, I don't know. I want movies to succeed, and I just feel like a lot of people are just saying things just so they can be the first and be different. So that's just my opinion. I mean, if it's bad, it's bad, honestly, and you're allowed to have your opinion. But I think some people really don't feel the way they're saying. They're just doing it just to do it. So
and art appreciation, but by engagement that they get by shitting on something before it even comes
Exactly.
out. But I think from character design alone, I like this approach. The thing should
Like the
have a
Superman
natural
trailer.
squint and a squashed nose, and if you made this guy's eyes bigger, it would be creepy.
Yeah,
Yet
he
Evan's
looked very
eyes are just
cartoony.
so expressive that they need to come through at least a little bit. Next, let's talk about the texturing. We know from set photos that they used a practical suit as a reference point, and I think it paid off here. The chunks of his skin all look pretty heavy, very
People were saying,
bumpy,
"Oh, it looks
rough to the
horrible."
touch,
We all
and
said that
a
they touch
specific
it up
shade
in-
of orange
in
that you would
after-
still
in post
find.
or
Evan
whatever.
Bachrach has even said in interviews that they did spend a lot of time in the desert trying to narrow down the perfect rocks for the thing. Where you might get a little loss is in the animation. Specifically, they animated Ben's mouth to move, opening up to taste the sauce, then talking. They definitely use VFX to animate these parts, and
Yeah.
while it blends in well with the rock head, I think it's fair to say that it's a little weird to get a glimpse of a tongue back there. But really, I don't care, because it isn't meant to be analyzed silently to this degree, but really
Exactly.
just experienced all together with the sound. And that includes the additional dimension of sound mixing, the rocky clack of his finger hitting his lips, that weird rocky slurp that we hear,
Yeah, I
the
love
rocky
it. The
clap of his
sound,
hands
yeah.
smacking each other.
Okay.
It's
I
all
got
just
like a
so
bag of
fun.
rocks,
It's so
you know?
silly, and I love this guy, and I want to hang out with him in a kitchen. And finally, most important, the performance. I now totally understand why they cast Evan Bachrach in this role, because this is absolutely cousin Richie
Yep.
from The Bear, uninvited, sticking his gross finger in a pasta sauce, tasting it, having a clear opinion about it. But then, and this would be like season 2 or season 3 Richie, withholding his criticism, replacing that criticism with some broy praise, and then insisting on adding 2 or 3 whole additional cloves of garlic. Now, I don't believe there can be too much garlic in anything. I love garlic. I'll shove it in a brownie. I'll crush an entire head of
A
garlic in my
brownie?
Caesar salad recipe, but I do split that across like the dressing and the croutons.
What's some
But we have
garlic
to
in a
say that
brownie?
adding several additional cloves to an already reduced sauce is a choice. But I think the joke here is also that Ben's rock tongue needs more seasoned foods to cut to his
Yeah,
berry
maybe.
taste buds. So all in all, this works for me, and mostly because they found a way to let Evan Bachrach's performance carry through. Okay, finally, on to the next clip.
He spent a lot of time on bid.
Before we went up the first time, you couldn't turn invisible.
Oh, it happened the first time.
Ben wasn't a rock.
The best pilot in the world right here.
Yeah. Best looking, he means.
All right, in this section, Reed's curved double-layered chalkboard rises up, and this is the floor of the Baxter building that has the 3 eye-shaped
What is
windows
gonna
to
be
it,
on
just
this
to kinda
board?
geographically locate us here. Reed also uses a curved chalkboard in his Fantastic Science with Dr. Richards Kids Science TV program that we saw in the Comic-Con footage. It allows him to stand close to the board, but also see the other ends of it all
Okay,
at
cool.
once. Now, to Reed's left on the chalkboard is a diagram that some are calling
Wormhole?
a multiverse bridge,
Yeah.
but I must say that this appears to, in fact, be an Einstein-Rosen bridge,
Yeah,
or a
wormhole, yeah.
that connects 2 holes in space within a single universe, not a multiverse
Yeah, 'cause
bridge.
it's a flat
But
plane.
we did label that plane in this diagram as another universe, and the portals as enter and exit. But actually, we do see a real textbook Penrose diagram beneath that. That's the hexagonal configuration with the 2 diamond shapes connected with a squiggly line at the top and a squiggly line at the bottom. The top one for the black hole, and the bottom one labeled white hole. In theoretical physics, this is another
Yep.
way to conceive
White
of
hole.
bending of space-time around black holes.
I
as
actually-
a possible way to
I
connect
listen to a
to
lot of
parallel
science
universe.
talk and everything. I
we
actually
already
kinda know what that
that
is.
Reed Richards in this movie will have an interest in the multiverse, because in that Fantastic Science TV show and the Comic-Con footage, he lectured to the kids, this equation not only confirms alternate dimensions, it suggests that parallel Earths exist
See,
on
that's
different
gonna
dimensional
be the
planes.
connection.
So
Some
yes,
kind of
we're in the
experiment
multiverse
he
saga,
does
and
gonna
Reed is
bring him
finding
to
a
our
way
universe.
break into the multiverse. Also, in the background of this room behind Reed, there is a model of the Marvel 1 rocket that's above the
Ooh,
corner.
can I
of the
get a Lego
chalkboard
set of
here,
that?
and their Fantastic Four jumpsuits all lined up with helmets, showing that these suits are in part their spacesuits as well. Reed and Sue remember before we went up the first time, and we see some stock footage of the 4 before their initial test flight, but the first time also tells us that the crew will be going up to space again in this movie.
Yeah,
and
for
I
what?
think this mission will be one
Experiment?
that confronts them with Galactus and or the Silver Surfer, and maybe even
Gotcha.
runs them into Galactus's ship, Ta-2. We see shots of their rocket as it takes off. I believe this is the Marvel 1, the ship the Fantastic Four take on their first flight in the comics. It breaks the sound barrier, and we see chunks of ice breaking off the rocket as it launches, reminiscent
normal,
of the launch
yeah.
imagery in Ron Howard's Apollo 13, or I'm sure Matt Shackman would say from Todd Douglas Miller's 2019 Apollo 11 documentary, which he had the cast and crew of this movie to watch prior to shooting. Reed and Sue float on a space station as sparks rain down. Now, on the
That's
break
gonna be
room
the
episode
first
that you
one?
totally have to watch, Evan thought this might actually be a sling ring portal opening, and I love that idea. That is what sling ring portals look like when they first
maybe?
start to form. But based on the context of the scene, I don't know if we would get Wong or Doctor Strange popping dropping to wherever they are right now. But Sue in this moment flickers in and out of
This
invisibility.
must be the first time it
and
happened.
Reed reaches for her face and her floating hair fades in before the rest of
It's
her
gotta be a
face appears.
flashback.
And I just really dig the way Sue's invisibility is depicted in this movie. It's kind of like flickering candlelight illuminating parts of her. And in this case, Reed's touch is what brings her back into visibility. And I just find that really sweet. Now, just to be clear, I do not think this was their original flight that gave them their powers, specifically because Reed and Sue are wearing newer spacesuits that have the 4 branding on them. So
yeah.
that would mean that this would be the later space flight
I was
after
wrong.
they became the famous Fantastic Four. We see an overhead shot of Ben Grimm in an alley as 3 other figures run away from him. And then Ben steps up to the
They're
shop
probably
window
some,
to
like,
see
little
television
thugs.
sets showing the documentary footage of Ben and Reed before their first flight. There's a jack-o'-lantern to the right of this shop, so this
It's
would
Halloween.
be around Halloween. And think about that. That might be one of the only times Ben Grimm would feel okay walking around the street level of Yancey Street. The San Diego Comic-Con fan art depicted Yancey Street and included Ben's neighborhood synagogue. The TV in this window has a label Kaplan's Sale Special. And before you get all worked up thinking this is a nod to William Kaplan, aka Wiccan, actually,
Oh.
come to think, we did learn that he came from a New Jersey Jewish family in Agatha all along.
Maybe.
That would just be in a different universe. Really, I think this is a nod to the co-writer of this movie, Jeff Kaplan. The old footage of Ben jokes that he's the best looking pilot in the world, and the TV switches off, reflecting Ben's now current ugly rock face staring back at him. But again, Eben's blue eyes really pierce through here, which makes it super noticeable in the next shot when he squints his eyes shut in humiliation. All right, on to the next clip.
Ben has always been a rock. Johnny is Johnny.
Johnny.
And I am right here.
If he could see how
Whatever
high he
life
can go
throws us,
before he loses.
So now we see Joseph Quinn from Stranger Things Season 4 playing Johnny Storm, the Human Torch in this movie, Sue Storm's brother. Reed's voiceover says Johnny never caught
Flame
fire,
on.
which he means is a contrast to Johnny's literal current condition, but I think it's also a statement at how Johnny in the past never really found his groove. But now, right before Johnny flames on, you can see a few decorative pumpkins inside on
It's
that table.
Halloween.
So again, we're looking at a Halloween time occurrence. And based on where Ben is in his life now, I feel like we might be seeing 2 different Halloweens in this movie, giving us a sense of the movie's internal timeline. We'll talk about that later, but Halloween, Matt Shackman is directing this, the man who brought Agatha Harkness into the MCU. And we should note that Agatha Harkness's comic introduction to the Marvel Comics was
the
in
Fantastic Four.
1969's Fantastic Four number 94. She was a governess to Franklin Richards before any of us knew that she was a witch. So
Yep.
there is a slim chance that an alternate universe Agatha Harkness could cameo in this movie.
That would be
and this movie
interesting.
Halloween time vibe sets it all up. I doubt it, but it is possible.
That would be
So here
interesting.
Johnny flame-ons into the night, and as he flies in front of the camera, the soles of his feet look like he's still wearing footwear. And when we see him in the upper stratosphere at the end of this clip, we see that he's still wearing his clothes. So these must
So,
be specific
fire
flame-resistant
retardant, yeah.
clothes. There's also an effect here where like water droplets appear on the lens, which could be like steam or condensation from the rapid heat transition.
It
in
could
the
be,
air.
that's
And I
cool.
say that because I think you could see water vapor trails from Johnny's hands as he flies. I
Yeah.
really like
The
this
detail, yeah.
Whereas the previous section had Reed fretting about how these space missions changed the 4 of them in the past, now Sue settles his fears by saying Ben has always been a rock. And the way she says it, it kind of sounds like she's saying Ben has always been our rock. And I just think it's a really sweet sentiment among friends. Sue finds her brother Johnny sitting inverted in his chair. On his side table is a model of a plane because he's always aspired to be a great pilot. I also love the detail that his jumpsuit arm sleeves have scorch marks on them because of course they would.
Oh,
Johnny
yeah.
blasts up toward the moon, and then we see him from the side with a full view of Manhattan and the Hudson River as it snakes
That's
north.
crazy.
Technically, we are looking up at Westchester County in this universe's New York. And if this alternate 1963 is technically an idealized Silver Age Marvel universe, a
What's
movie
that?
co-produced by 20th Century, somewhere down in that valley could be an X-Mansion with Charles Xavier,
Oh.
Cyclops, Jean Grey, Beast, Iceman,
Let's
and Angel,
go.
who were part of the original early 60s lineup of the Uncanny X-Men. Sue Storm uses another form of her powers, projecting her shield barrier. It's hard to appreciate such a quick shot, but it pulsates out from her body in waves that bend the light and the electromagnetic spectrum to create this rainbow effect. I love that it's not
She
like
looked really
an
good at
inner
it.
color-toned radiation glow. It's just like a color shift caused by her bending the light that's naturally there. Behind her, the Fantastic Car is parked, and it looks like Reed and some other authorities are holding the crowd back. There's an RKO Palace Cinema, a Juniper
Sub-Zero
Lounge,
Intel.
an embassy theater that's showing something called Aiden Powers Sub-Zero Intel, and I think that also might be a Doublemint gum ad in the background there. Above Sue is the elevated train line, or the monorail, that we've seen in wider shots and in concept art for the city. One of the support columns looks like it's been damaged, so I'm wondering
Big
if
battle?
the train is headed their way and about to crash,
And she's
Sue
trying
is
to
gonna
stop it?
use
Yeah.
her barrier to levitate it to safety. And I love this shot of Johnny testing his flight powers to try to break Earth's gravity, but finding himself unable to do so and falling back down. In the Galactus storyline that Marvel Studios told us to read for this movie, Johnny Storm goes out to deep space
read
to
that.
try to retrieve the Ultimate Nullifier, a weapon that could destroy Galactus's home ship, Ta-2, and a weapon that they ultimately have to use to force him to leave Earth alone. Moving on to the
Trying
next
to read all the
clip.
comments real quick.
Face it together.
That part looks amazing. Who's that guy? That's what I don't know.
As a family.
All right, here we see the Fantastic Four reacting to a meteor shower. This, I believe, is what leads to Johnny's launch off the balcony in the
Yeah.
other shot. And if you look closely at this shot, Ben looks down at a device on his wrist. We got a better look at this device earlier in the trailer when he was tasting the
Some kinda,
sauce. And while he may just be
communicator.
looking at the time, I'm curious why he would look at a time when they're noticing a meteor shower. So maybe there is some tech on these devices
probably
that they
got
all
an
have on their
alert.
wrists that link the Fantastic Four to like orbital satellites, or maybe the antenna on the Baxter Building roof that can measure atmospheric conditions or track cosmic threats. And I think what we are seeing here is the atmospheric disturbances that precede Galactus' arrival in the comics that the Fantastic Four discover are really being caused by the Silver Surfer, which then leads to Uatu the Watcher intervening, arriving to warn them about Galactus. Could we see a live action
That
Jeffrey
would be
Wright
crazy.
Uatu in this movie? God, I hope so. Now, we do not
That
see
would be
the
crazy.
Silver Surfer in this trailer, but in this movie, it will be Shala Ball Silver Surfer, played by Julia Garner from Ozark. She is a partner to the male Norrin Rad Silver Surfer and someone who becomes the Herald of Galactus in her own right. But actually, Shala Ball is involved in a plot with Mephisto, and Mephisto was really introduced in Marvel
here we
Comics
go again.
in the 60s as a Silver Surfer villain. Mephisto replaces Shala Ball's consciousness with a Latvian peasant named Helena, with whom Dr. Doom arranges a false marriage to get the Silver Surfer to fight the Fantastic Four. Could we see that storyline with Dr. Doom, Robert Downey Jr.
That would be
in this movie? Almost
weird.
certainly not, but it does seem like Shala Ball will be the Silver Surfer of just this universe, while Norrin Rad is going to be the Silver Surfer of other Marvel universes. And
okay.
Lakeith Stanfield has been rumored for the role based off of a social media post where he said, "I thought I was playing this character," and then quickly had to delete it. But we
Oh.
do expect Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom to show up in this movie, perhaps in a post-credit scene to set
what
up
I'm
Avengers
thinking.
Doomsday. But we are
Some-
unsure
some-
if
some-
this
some
Victor
kind of
Von Doom
sense
will
of
come
him.
from this universe's Latveria, or if he's just going to be another Dr. Doom from some other universe
it would
who
make
observes this universe's destruction.
sense, because
we see
then
a
we-
shot of
we can
kids in
have him
costume
as it.
as the Thing with these plastic masks looking upward in fear. I assume these are Halloween costumes. And again,
Yep.
back to the two Halloweens of this movie, giving us a sense of the timeline. The first Halloween being when Ben is sad, moping around Yancey Street as a bullied outcast in disguise, looking in at TV footage of his past self that he wishes he still was. And then a later Halloween when Ben is partying in the Baxter Building penthouse, when Johnny takes off in flight,
Flame
and
on.
where kids down on the street are dressed up like him, clearly loving him. So that would mean we are getting an internal timeline of this movie
Yeah,
longer
like
than
jumping.
9 months.
It
And
would
that's
make
enough
sense.
time for a baby Franklin
Oh,
to arrive within
yes,
this
the
movie's
babies.
runtime. A quick shot of the amazing Fantastic car zipping down the street with a Chrysler-style cursive logo on
like
the side
that.
of it.
I like
now,
that.
this car does, of course, fly, but I just love how for now we don't see it fly. It's just on the road. Where it is going now, it still needs roads.
What the hell is going on here?
God.
Johnny Storm blazes past some rooftops, and there is a billboard on the far right that has a green bottle. And Lord, I hope it's an alternate universe Pingo Doce. And there's a water tower with this ad: Pop-Tarts,
Pop-Tarts.
eat 'em toasted. And toasting being the key word there, because I'm sure Johnny passing it toasts the sign to hell.
Yeah,
Then a quick
yeah,
shot
yeah.
of Ben Grimm running down the street. I think he's chasing the runaway elevated train in the same sequence with Sue Storm in the earlier shot. Then a quick shot of John Malkovich as a mystery character. We have speculated characters in the past like Mole Man, who we know will be in
Mole
this
Man.
movie based
Oh,
off
yeah. Yeah.
Subterranea being on that fan, or maybe Susan and Johnny's father, Franklin Storm. But now the popular speculation is that this could be Ivan Kragoff, aka the Red Ghost. The Red Ghost was a Soviet scientist
I don't know
from
who
Fantastic
I
Four
don't
number
know
13 back
any
in
about him.
1963, who was bent on beating the Americans to the moon and formed a crew of simians, including a gorilla, a baboon, and an orangutan, whom he exposed to cosmic rays and turned into his super apes. So along
That's
with
weird.
Mole Man, whom I now think will be played by Paul Walter Hauser, the thinking is that the first act of this movie could feature the Fantastic Four thwarting several of their early comics
Okay, just
villains
kinda
in a
like show their
montage, and the
montage, yeah.
campier the better, which could set up a fun excuse for Malkovich to bring back his insane Russian accent from Rounders as KGB Teddy.
Pay that man his money.
Natasha Lyonne and Sarah Niles will also be in this film in unknown roles. Now, Natasha Lyonne recently voiced an original character named Birdie in What If Season 3, who is the love child of Darcy Lewis and Howard
There's
the Duck.
no way Birdie's gonna be in
So
this.
let's hope Lyonne is playing some other character for
Yeah.
the love of God.
Yeah, it
And
was
then
so
this shot
stupid.
of Manhattan as the shadow of Galactus looms over it. Yes! In this shot, you can actually see the Excelsior launch pad and the Marvel One rocket on the East River on the right, with the Baxter building facing it. And of course, I was looking for Avengers Tower in the skyline, but you do see the MetLife building here. And in the 616 universe, the MetLife building is where Avengers Tower is. So Avengers Tower might not exist in this universe, or it could just be some other building we can't see here. Also, you'll notice around the Midtown area, you can see where they added that elevated train loop with the arches
That's
supporting
cool.
it, circling the area at various points. Also, we should note that the San Diego Comic-Con fan singled out the Flatiron building of Manhattan, which in several universes is a building that houses the Daily Bugle offices.
Oh,
and
yes.
if this is a true Silver Age Marvel universe, shouldn't there
Be
be
a
a
Spider-Man,
somewhere
yep.
in it? Then we get the big shot, the back of Galactus's antlered helmet as he looks down at the Statue of Liberty on Liberty Island. Oh shit! And beyond Liberty Island, you can see a dome in the upper left corner that San Diego fan art labeled a clean energy complex. So Galactus often takes the form of a devourer of worlds, way bigger than a planet, but he is also capable of scaling his size
I
down
see, yeah,
to be
I
a
thought he
size
was
where he can
bigger.
fit within a city like this. Based on his height, it seems like he is wading through the estuary here. Galactus is the devourer of worlds, a cosmic being who was originally Galen of Ta, a backstory created by Mark Grunwald later on, from the 6th iteration of the universe, who survived the big crunch of that universe by gestating inside of a cosmic egg, and then emerged into the 7th iteration of the universe as this godly being who is kind of a cosmic caretaker of dying worlds. He is not a celestial. He does not create any part of the
he
cosmos. He's
destroys.
just like a being who survived different phases of the universe. He goes planet by planet to devour that planet's life force, and he sends before him a herald.
I do.
Galactus was actually depicted in 2007's Rise of the Silver Surfer as an ambiguous space
Yeah,
cloud.
I didn't
but
like
an
that.
earlier shot in that film did show Galactus moving past Saturn and casting his iconic antlered shadow on that planet. This is a truly comic accurate Galactus. A tall purple helmet with angular antlers. He's perfect. And I love the details that the VFX artist rendered into this helmet texture.
The little
like
crit-
tiny
yeah.
little glowing window dots and scarring and weathering that makes him look not like a giant smooth toy,
Like a
but like a
spaceship.
massive walking Death Star that has
Yeah.
seen some shit and eaten some shit. Now we know from the San Diego Comic-Con concept trailer that we will see Ralph Ineson's face as Galactus in this movie. There was a shot of him leaning in to
Okay.
look through the penthouse
Oh,
window
wow.
of the Baxter building, scaring the hell out of Herbie. So again, why is Galactus targeting Earth? We kind of
I need
connected
to- I
that
wanna see
theory
that trailer.
the first steps of this movie are the baby steps of the baby Franklin Richards, an Omega level mutant and a reality warper, and that Galactus might need that baby's power to save this
Maybe the
universe.
baby is
And
how they
Fantastic
get
Four would
into our
obviously
universe.
refuse to hand over their kid. But that could be why this trailer ends with Sue with tears in her eyes as she declares they'll handle this as a family. Now, I've been pushing for this ever since the trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home. My dream theory is for the Marvel Multiverse to use the Statue of Liberty as a physical anchor point to know what universe we're in, because
Okay.
it has now served as a major set piece in several key Marvel moments. The final battle in X-Men 2000, the first
Yeah.
Marvel movie that Kevin Feige worked on, and now officially MCU canon since Deadpool and Wolverine.
Rest in pieces, Fox.
That makes sense. yeah.
Also, the final battle of Spider-Man No Way Home, which looking back might have been the moment Doctor Strange and Peter Parker impacted this whole universe.
I
with
think
an
that movie
incursion
has all the
event, and now
ripple effects.
Galactus looking over it. The Statue of Liberty represents a gateway to a new world and is one of cinema's most iconic images of immediately telling an audience the status of the post-apocalyptic world that they're in.
That
Ever
is
since
true.
Charlton Heston and Planet of the Apes screamed at it, "You blew it up, damn you!" Damn you all to hell! So, Kevin Feige, please take this idea. It's yours. You can have it. And
Makes
we're
sense.
at our final shot. The full lineup suited up, standing on what looks like a TV soundstage, like an Ed
Yeah.
Sullivan style TV appearance.
Like
I
you're
just
being
noticed
introduced.
that 7 arrows are pointed at their circle. Arrows? What is this? A new Rockstar's thumbnail? Actually, this set design is a specific reference to the Beatles' February 1964 appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show, which was their first ever US TV performance, a historic moment for the Fab Four from the UK making their American debut. And obviously there's a Fantastic Four parallel there too, right? This may remind you of that line in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
He should have been my
You
read.
guys chart in the 60s.
Now, Steven was just making a Fab Four joke, making fun of the 838 Reed
But
Richards
done in
and
the
calling
60s.
back Strange's uncanny skill at recalling pop music history that we saw in the opening surgery scene of the 2016 Doctor Strange movie. I just like that this movie is like leaning into the parallel of the Fantastic Four as like a Hard Day's Night version of the Beatles. To me, this underlines the real story of the movie, the cost of fame. Reed Richards made the Fantastic Four public figures and celebrities to ease the pain of his friend Ben Grimm, but that increasingly placed a target on them and any future family they could choose to bring into the world. So these arrows aren't just a TV program
cost of
set
fame is
piece
always
designed
protecting
to
the
direct
family.
all eyeballs to these four. Symbolically, they're also arrows firing at a bullseye. And that's why
Yeah.
I think the early victories of the Fantastic Four in the first act of this movie could all just be setting up a third act where they fail and have to abandon this doomed Earth in this dimension.
That
as
makes a
Reed
lot
has
of
to
sense.
Navigate a new path through the multiverse, ending with this family meeting some 616 heroes that we know. Avengers Doomsday is likely going to be set among the apocalyptic landscapes of several doomed worlds, and I feel like the Earth of this movie dying is how we get there. And in the final cards
Maybe-
of the
yeah,
trailer,
maybe
we
they
see that
don't-
this movie will be
maybe they
depicted
don't
in
save the world from the
Fantastic
Galactus. He
Vision,
actually
and
destroys
I
it.
don't really know what that means, but I feel like a lot of this movie could be a future Foundation documentary of their parents' sacrifice, and that Fantastivision is just kind of like a round-the-clock documentary puff piece of these heroes and how great they are. Now, this trailer came earlier than expected. We
Yeah.
still expect Marvel Studios is going to drop 2 trailers during the Super Bowl this Sunday, February 9th. There's a
Oh,
chance
what?
we get a shorter 30-second spot of this Fantastic Four footage with different shots, like maybe a look at Galactus' face. Whatever we get, we will be live streaming here on the New Rockstars channel starting an hour before kickoff. So join us for our trailer watch party
Watch all the
as we
trailers.
react to everything. Comment down below with your thoughts on this trailer. Follow me at EA Boss and subscribe to all channels in the New Rockstars
Thank you,
Network
Mr.
for
Eric
breakdowns and news
Voss.
coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
As always, what a good breakdown. It's been a while since we did one of these long videos like this, but I learned a lot. Yeah, very interesting theory. Some things I did not know about. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna go back and do some research of my own. I mean, I know a lot about Fantastic Four, but I don't know a lot. They're not one of my favorite characters I follow. So, but I'm gonna do some reading before the movie comes out. Like I said, the more I've watched this trailer, the more I'm actually getting excited for this movie. I'm not saying I wasn't excited. I'm saying like at first I was like about the trailer. Now I really like the trailer. I feel like hopefully this is moving Marvel back in the right step. But that's a breakdown. Let me know down below some things that you did not know that you find out. What's something they didn't mention that maybe you know, Easter eggs or whatever, or some fun facts about some fun Fantastic Four. Say that 10 times fast. Facts that you may know. But till then, guys, thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.